and I got Austin on the phone, and Austin um, spoke to me today and told me about Matt McArthur for U.S. Congress. Specifically, the child support should be tax deductible post that Matt McArthur had on there says election day gets closer. Remember that I'm the only candidate opening supporting tax relief for non-custodial parents. Now, Austin, so you're on there, right? And I was looking at Bandrew Suarez. He started off the post by saying, "Why don't you just support an initial 50-50 custody unless either parent can prove abuse or neglect of the child? Too many undeserving mothers get full custody, and too many fathers unable to see their children because of the mother's decision." Um, as you're looking at that post, as you're looking at Bandrew's post right there, how's that make you feel, man? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, so I completely agree with that. In fact, when I was in, just the beginning stages of the divorce, I also suggested to my now ex-wife for 50-50 custody because I am a good and responsible father. And this is before we had attorneys involved, and she rejected that plea deal. And so I got stuck with the standard custody. But the reality is that I have, been successful professionally, and unfortunately, alongside with my success professionally, many fathers, they don't have that same opportunity to say that, unfortunately. But with my success, I'll tell you this one strange thing. I ended up homeless because my child support, in a moment of joblessness, got so out of control that they started taking 50% of my paycheck before taxes. And so then I was homeless for 9 months, and that's whenever I had to just completely, surrender my custodial times. And so now, if it were to go to court, it's never been my intent because it's not good for the children. And fortunately, after 7, 8, 9 years of being divorced and being under custodial guidelines by the court, I have not been to court. And so whenever I bring this up, I bring this up because if I decided to go contest it, well, it looks like I've been an irresponsible father, like I've been knocking around, being jobless here in the state of Texas, and just in and out of jobs, and that's simply just not the case. The reality is that whenever they take 50% before taxes because of arrears to catch that up, it really screwed me over, and I could not afford to pay rent. And then I lost a job, and the next job that I had after that only paid me minimum wage. And then I certainly couldn't afford to pay rent or a place to live.
Right.
So while I agree with the 50-50 custody claims, I think that this is one of those measures to get child support tax deductible for non-custodial parents, because if that happens, then it actually puts a lot of us back in the game as far as being, in relationship with our children, and that's what we want. If that was the case, I probably never would have complained about it along the way. I just would have, paid the debt and let it be on its way. But since it's not tax deductible as it is, this has got to be one of the best introductions for non-custodial parents, across the state of Texas.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, and tell me if I'm wrong, is it having the child support come out after taxes? Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so right now the child support is coming out before taxes, and then my taxes get come out.
Right.
Yeah.
So okay, let's think about that. So if you let's say you have $100, right, and usually in Texas it's 20%. So let's say they take 20%. So that's $20 of your paycheck goes to child support. You get to take $20 out of your paycheck and give it to your kids. So now you have $80, and then they tax you, I believe, at 12% on $80, right? So that would be the case. That's where you are now. That's where everybody's at now. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. So if if the child support comes out after taxes, then that means that they take your $100 and they tax you at $100, right? And then so they're taking out $12. So now you're left with 88. Now they tax you. Now the child support comes out of your paycheck based off of $88, and that's less
No.
than 20.
It's coming out. It's coming out. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
Right. Okay. Just making sure. So now they're taking child support out at off of $88. So 20% of 88 is definitely less than 20% of 100. So in essence, the child support would be less. So the math, and believe me, I don't believe in child support and all, and the government interfering in our lives. But the math proves to me that this would be a bad plan if the real goal was to have money for the children. Now, I'm gonna just cut to the chase and say that all this is chasing a rabbit down the rabbit hole. You know what I mean? It's a wild goose chase because it doesn't matter when the child support comes out how much you're taxed. The thing is parents have a right, have property rights to their children, right? And let me add, and this goes back to child support. Why are they asking you, Austin, to pay child support for your child, your children, and not me or Matt here or any other man or woman for that matter? Why you? Why are they asking you or ordering you, commanding you to pay child support for your child? Why? What's the
Because
Sorry.
there's no reason behind that, because it's just because legally right now they can get away with it.
No. Why you and not me? Why are you paying child support for your child and not me?
Yeah, that's what I don't know.
No, that's the fun part about what I get to do, bro. Is that I get to these type of questions. It's so obvious, that people they don't realize it. But why are you paying child support for your child, and they're not asking me to pay child support for your child? Why? It's fairly obvious.
Because they can use my child against me to want to spend time with, and it puts me in a position that
I don't mean to cut you off to be rude or anything. I'm sorry, but you might be overthinking a little bit. Why are they saying, Austin, this is your kid, you pay child support, and they didn't come after me? How come they're not coming after me to pay child support for your kid?
Because it's not your kid.
That's right, baby. That's right. It's not my kid. Whose kid is it?
It's mine.
It's yours. That is your child, right? That child has your DNA. That's your DNA. You signed up for that child. That's your child, and they'll tell you that. There's a case. It's called. You can look it up. It's called the Roe versus Wade for men. And there was a guy, and he said he didn't want to have kids, and his girlfriend said, "No, I can't have kids. I don't want to have them either. But don't worry, because I'm sterile and I can't have kids." Well, he took the risk, and they were messing around for a little while, and eventually she became pregnant, and he went to the courts and said, you know what, I said I didn't want to have a kid. She lied to me, and the courts came back and said, no, it just seems like you don't want to pay child support, right? Like, that's your kid. That's what the federal court said. They said, that's your kid, and shame on you for not wanting to pay child support for your kid. That's your kid, your responsibility, your kid. And we hear that everywhere we go, and they say, no, it's your kid. You have to take responsibility for your kid. That child is our property. It belongs to us. So in essence, we have property rights to that child. Like, can you go up to anybody's child and just like, don't do that, and then you smack them on the butt and be like, don't let me see, don't let me catch you doing that again, and all they're doing is picking their nose. Right? You, you know what I mean? Some angry dad's gonna be like, why the hell are you spanking my kid, bro? That's my kid.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Those are our children. So we have property rights. Now, in the Constitution of Texas and the United States and pretty much all 50 states, it says that the government shall not take your property without compensation. So what they do is they take your property, dude. They take your property from you and they give it to somebody else. Now, I want to bring up in Texas, I'm gonna bring up the law, and you can look at it. It's chapter 31 for theft. Okay? Chapter 31, it describes theft of property. All right? And property can be tangible or intangible. It can be real. It can be a document, including money or anything that embodies value. How much value do you think your child has? How much money is your child worth to you? And be honest. Don't think that just give me a number. How much is your child worth to you?
Well, he's priceless.
It's priceless. That's the highest value you could ever have. And the law in Texas says anything that has value, anything that embodies value. Our children embody value, and they're tangible personal property. They belong to us. We can touch them. You can hold them and move them around. They're not real property because that's land. But this is tangible property that embodies value. Now, when somebody appropriates your property, that means to bring about the transfer of title, right, in the property to give it to someone else, to take it from somebody and give it to someone else. That's appropriate. Now, unlawful appropriation occurs when somebody takes your property without your consent. Okay, that's unlawful appropriation. And I'm going to jump down here to where it says theft. A person commits an offense, okay, if he unlawfully appropriates property with intent to deprive the owner of the property. And I'm going to say it a different way. A judge commits an offense if that judge, without the consent of the father, takes that father's child with the intent to deprive the father of the property. It's the same thing. I just got more specific with who and how they did it. Judges are committing theft, bro. They're committing theft. They're taking your property, and what they're doing is getting a gain out of it because they institute child support. And child support in Wehunt versus Ledbetter, like I told you, I mentioned it earlier this morning, Wehunt versus Ledbetter and Blessing versus Freestone, the Supreme Court said there were a bunch of moms in Arizona and across the country saying, hey, the state's not collecting child support for us. And the state said, no, we don't have to. And they took it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, yeah, they don't have to because child support isn't for the benefit of the child, it's for the benefit of the state. So the state can collect on past due welfare benefits. Welfare benefits. That's all child support in the United States is for. In England is different. In England, people actually have a right to it. But in the United States, it's not for the people, it's not for the child, it's for the state to get their money back. And the federal government gives them incentives when they order child support. So if I order $100 worth of child support and I tax you at $20, I get to go and Ken Paxton gets to go to the federal government and say, hey, look, I ordered $100 and I collected 20. And the federal government will say, okay, here's $10. Then Ken Paxton says, well, this was actually Greg Abbott who started it, but Ken Paxton is in control right now. So now Ken Paxton says, well, wait a minute. If I get $200 out of this very same person, and then I get $40 in child support, the federal government's going to give me $20. I just doubled my profits. How many parents can we do this to? How many parents can we do this to? How many children can we exploit for federal incentives? And it's all in the law. Even please stop. Even their own policies say that child support money that's collected goes into what's called a general fund for Texas, and from that general fund, the retirement benefits. Please stop. The retirement benefits for child support agency employees can be paid.
Wow.
Yeah, bro.
That is outrageous.
It is horrific, and they're exploiting our children to do it, and all the while they're saying you gotta pay child support. You gotta pay child support. You gotta pay child support. You gotta pay it. You're a bad person if you don't pay child support. And it's like, well, wait a minute. The only person who's if we go back to Blessing versus Freestone and Wehunt versus Ledbetter, and the Supreme Court says that child support is only for the benefit of the state, then and that Title 4D is a voluntary program. The state does not have to. They don't have to participate. They do have to participate in Social Security, but they don't have to participate in the child support program. So, if the state is voluntarily participating in the child support program, it's only doing it to benefit itself. So when it assists in the theft of children and exploits those children, right? And I'm going to jump over to Texas Penal Code Chapter 32, which concerns fraud, okay? And all the way down in fraud, there is exploitation of a child, elderly individual, or disabled individual. And it says, exploitation means the illegal or improper use of a child or the resources of a child for monetary or personal benefit, profit, or gain. So I'm going to read it again. Exploitation means illegal or improper use of a child, okay, by the Attorney General's office or anyone else, okay, for monetary or personal profit or gain, okay? So they're exploiting our children to get this money, and it's a crime in Texas. But when you bring it up, they're like, no, it's not a crime because the government can do it. But if the government can't take your property without giving you compensation, how did they take your property and then make you compensate them?
Yeah, that's insane. It's complete. I mean, it is exactly what you're saying. It is.
It lays it out there.
But yeah, and it's pure evil. To be honest with you, it's pure evil.
It is.
And these guys, Paxton and Abbott, they do it under the Republican red card and the church. And the reality is that I'm also a Christian. But that's one of the most unchristian things that they could do.
Oh, yeah.
And so while he rolls around in his chair and touts his Catholicism, I'm sitting here in my parents' house without my son. And, that's unfair because he touts himself as a family man while he's dividing families.
My belief is that Ken Paxton is like Thanos and the Joker, and he's a villain, but he doesn't know he's a villain, bro. He's so separated. These attorney generals, Greg Abbott. I think Greg Abbott knows what's going on. I think Greg Abbott knows, but Ken Paxton. I think Ken Paxton is detached from what's really happening and doesn't see that the judges and child support officers, they do the same thing. They write up papers and they divide families, and then a judge will sign it, and then it goes from there. And then you're in the system. All they need to do is get you on that paper, and then you're in the system. So I don't think Ken Paxton knows that the judges are exploiting children without cause. You know what I mean? The child support is for people who abandon their children. You have to pay child support if you abandoned your child. If you left and you don't care about them, child support is for you. But 99% of us parents, we didn't abandon our children. We were kicked out of their lives just so that the state could make money. And I think Ken Paxton, as much as and believe me, my friends, man, they want to. Everybody wants to rag on him. I felt the same way, but I honestly believe he's detached from this situation, and it's the individual judges and the child support, the attorney general office agents, because they're all. It's a separate entity. They're a contract. Like they go by the office of the attorney general and they go by child support, but they're really just a business. They're just a business, and they collect the child support for the state, and they work through contracts with counties. So whatever county you're in, don't tell me, but whatever county you're in, your county has a contract with a Title 4D debt collection agency, and that agency will come after you for the child support, and then they will take that money and give it to the attorney general's office. And Ken Paxton's just like, well, if the judges put them on there, they must deserve to be on there, And I think that's how it. I think that's how. I think that's the reality of the situation. Is just that, well, if you're on there, then you must have did something bad. Like if you go to court, you must have did something bad. Nobody believes in innocence until proven guilty. We all just automatically assume, well, if you're before a judge, you must have done something bad. And I think that's how it is. And it's up to us to change that mentality, to force judges and attorneys to be like, no, wait a minute, like we can't just go stealing kids. Ultimately, this is human trafficking, is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to take it down to that first level, the one that we interact with, which is the judges and the attorneys and the Title 4D agents. And then if it moves on up and we find out that it is Ken Paxton, well, then shame on him. You know what I mean? Because that's just evil. And Greg Abbott, I think he knows. I think Greg Abbott knows for sure. He was there when the whole system was designed, so I think he knows what's happening. But how you feel about all this, man? I mean, I'm laying on some information on you and everybody who's listening. And
well, I mean, the reality is that I still feel handcuffed by my situation because my arrears is so high that I mean, honestly, they could come and pick me up if they wanted to and put me in jail.
Yeah.
Right now. And all I'm looking forward to is trying to spend time with my son and working so that I can get that done. But they could come and they could put me in jail at any moment.
Yep. That's the reality of the situation. That's how it is. For now. For now, bro.
For now.
Yeah. For now.
And the reality is that I don't have anything more on my record than some parking violations and a couple of traffic tickets in life. I've never been jailed for any reason. But they could come and take me to jail for my arrears child support.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate. It's sad. It's again, it's dividing the family, but they do it because they found a way to get a man to be a worker for the state, to pay for their funds, and to pay, it sounds like, for their retirement.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's government bureaucratic slavery that is essentially church and moral sponsored because they're gonna raise into question morality. Well, if you love your child, you just pay it, and that's often the thing that my ex-wife would say. It's for your son. It's for your son. Don't you love your son? Well, my money getting taken out pre-taxes and then taxes. I think it would be more stable for my son if his father was financially stable. But when they're clearing out my bank account, it puts me on edge, like I told you before. For a period of time, it made me homeless. And I guess to the extent that I'm 40 and I live with my parents, you could say that I still am to a degree. Because I cannot provide a home for myself. I cannot provide, those kind of resources. And what you just said about it being in collections, it is in collections. And now my credit report is so royally screwed up.
Yep.
And now what do I have to do? Now I don't pay a 2 to 3% interest rate on a vehicle loan if I need one. I pay anywhere from 12 to 20%. So everybody gets to dip their hand in my cookie jar.
Yep, that's right. Yep.
I
never. You know what? I didn't think about that, man. I didn't think about that all this was resulting in more money for, lenders and stuff like that because your credit, like they want your credit report to suck so that they can charge you money because you need it. you need the loan.
Yeah, you ought to have a vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me get some.
And then, if they actually take me to jail, you know what the prison system gets?
Yeah, incentives.
The prison system gets $400 a day.
Yeah. And
the cost of housing an inmate in the state of Texas is $100 a day. And so they make $300 a day on profit for every inmate in the Texas prison system.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, they're going to get paid however they get paid, but if it's a business, it's criminal, it's crooked, it's dirty, and everyone that's involved, behind the pounding of a gavel and wearing of their coat and calling it justice is just on the wrong side of anything moral or sane or just in regard to what is best for the children.
That's right. That's right. It look, ultimately it's our fault because we before this we didn't care. Before this we would be in Walmart standing next to a dude who was us. he was oppressed. You know what I mean? He was probably contemplating suicide or thinking about running to another country or something, but definitely feeling the pain of not seeing his kid. And we didn't know about it. We were oblivious to it, and we didn't give a fuck. We didn't care. And then now we're in it, and we go to Walmart, and we stand there, and there's some guy or some gal standing there, and they don't know the pain we're going through. You know what I mean? Because we don't wear it on our shoulder. We don't wear it on, we're just another person and nobody cares. And it's really our fault because we're not talking about it. Everybody's talking about, the elections or some kind of scandal with Trump or something like that. And it's like, look, man, well, all that's important, I guess. But when you come down to it, when your own local government is ready to throw you in jail because you're not paying extortion fees on your child or exploitation money on your child, that is a bigger problem than whoever's in the White House. That's how I feel. And it's our fault. It's our fault because we're too quiet. We need to be louder.
Yeah. Agreed.
So hey, look, Austin, I'm gonna have to go. I gotta get back to work, brother. But hey, you got my number, man. If you I want to try to help you out, man, and we'll talk later. I'll learn more about your situation, so we can figure out a way to help you fight back against the OAG, okay, man, and try to get you in court. So or look, we're changing our strategy here. We're not going to the courts no more. We're going outside the courts. The judges, they can in Texas. I'll tell you I'll tell you something shocking. In Texas, to take a voice recorder or a camera into a courtroom is like trying to bring another man into is like your wife trying to bring another man in the bedroom. It's like, what? Get that out of here! Like, it is that sacrilegious, if I'm using the word right. In Nevada, however, you have to you have to raise hell to get the cameras out of the courtroom. There is something suspicious about Texas courts. So we're no longer going into Texas courts where the judges conceal their crimes and they control who knows. And I mean, you go ask the judge for help, and they deny you, and then you go to the appellate court and ask them for help, and then they deny you, and then you go to the Supreme Court and ask for help, and they deny you. It's like, well, where do you go for help? Where do you go to get help? And it's not there. You know what I mean? So we're going outside the courts now. We're going to be outside. We're going to be talking to the university kids. We're talking to the high school kids. We're talking to the people at Walmart. We're going to make everybody know what's going on so that this system can change. So we have an opportunity to change, brother. So I'm gonna get back in contact with you so I can figure out what your situation is, so we can get a plan going on for you, man, so that we can try to help you out, man. Okay?
All right, Drew. I appreciate the call, man.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you soon. Hey, try to. Oh, by the way, try to get a hold of this Matt guy and see if we can get him on the phone and talk to him and tell him we want to interview him for dad equal custody. Yep. You do me that favor?
Yep.
Okay, bro.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot, man.
You bet.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.